What's going on, guys? This is going to be the first podcast with Hansen Health. We got our guest speaker, Juan Gama, coming in here. I think I didn't butcher his name, hopefully.
It sounds good,
Gama.
man.
Okay. All right. So, me and Juan, just to give you guys a little bit of context on what this is about. Me and him are both fitness coaches. We're here to make an impact, make a difference in the world, and be able to help people optimize their health in the best way possible in a sustainable way. I personally help with busy parents, busy moms, people that are overextending themselves, constantly showing up for everybody but themselves. And I find that people that are super busy, that are always overextending themselves, they start to get drained. They're not taking care of themselves on a regular basis. That starts to affect their mental health. And a lot of the time, people don't associate with their physical health with their mental health, when in reality, having healthier habits, feeling better, like the higher energy that you are, the better mood that you're going to be in, and the more driven, the more motivated that you're going to be to want to show up for all the other aspects in your life. So we're going to freaking dive into it today on how we're going to be able to give you some actionable steps on how to be able to create that for yourself, how to create a solid system that's going to work with you and your lifestyle. So Juan, what are some things that were some systems and some things that you apply with your clients that has been super effective, maybe created like a ripple effect, a domino effect in their lives?
Yeah, so first off, I'll let you guys know who I actually work with. So I'm actually a fitness coach for pilots specifically. So airline pilots, cargo pilots, private pilots. And the reason I chose to work with pilots is because when I was starting my business, I did a little bit of research and I realized that nobody out there was coaching pilots. Nobody out there was providing this service for pilots. There's a lot of fit pilots with their meal prep packs and their workout videos, but there's nobody actually providing this service for pilots. And so that's the reason I decided to go down that route. Now, as far as you said, your question was like, what are some things that have like really helped my clients like have breakthroughs and stuff?
Yes. Yeah. What are some breakthroughs? Like, what are some common pitfalls? Some like things that you apply with your clients to maybe,
Mm-hmm.
especially with people that are traveling, people that are struggling with
Yeah.
like staying on
Right.
track, especially as like a pilot. That's their whole shtick, is like just being able to stay on track while traveling, while they have all this other stuff going on and not having their typical environment, and their
Mm-hmm.
variables are always changing. Like, what are some ways that they adapt? They create
Yeah.
flexibility to allow to create more consistency around it.
So pilots have very unique issues in the sense that their schedules are always changing, so they don't have like this set schedule that they can just follow every single week. So that's the first thing that I let them know is, okay, so here's how we're going to create a routine. So obviously when people think of a routine, they think, okay, every Monday, every Wednesday, every Friday, I'm going to do this. Pilots can't do that because their schedules are always changing. So what I tell them to do is instead of focusing on doing the same things every week, every single, every the same days every week, we're going to focus on hitting our weekly targets. Because as long as we're focused on hitting weekly targets, we're able to create that routine. Obviously, it's not going to be the linear traditional routine that most people have in a 9 to 5, but we're able to hit those habits and create those routines. Another big challenge that pilots have is the food, right? Airport food is really challenging to, navigate through. So
Definitely
we have a
not
combination
the
of,
healthiest food.
yeah, exactly. And it's always like really bad food. Now, I do feel like airport food does have a bad rap because there are healthy choices that you can make. There are healthy options. It just requires a little bit more effort. Obviously, the fast food is always more convenient. It's always easier to get to. But even at the fast food joints, man, like you can make better choices. And it's just a matter of being more aware of that. And so when it comes to nutrition, we have a flexible approach to where it's like, okay, well, let's make sure that we're eating a lot of protein. Let's make sure that we're at least watching our macros, watching our calories. And obviously, eating out is going to be inevitable as a pilot, but that doesn't mean that we have to make bad choices all the time. And what a lot of my clients start to realize is that once they start making healthier choices, their cravings for that bad shit begin to change. Their cravings for drinking every day begin to change. Like your body begins to crave the healthier stuff. Once you get to that point where you're able to crave the healthier stuff and you're making better choices and you're just feeling better, then you have a lot more body awareness. And what you begin to realize is that when you have that pizza, when you have that burger, you feel it. Like it's not just like you probably will enjoy it, but you'll feel it in your body. You'll feel it
Oh
like
yeah.
2 hours later of how it's going to affect you because you're like creating that body awareness. a lot of the trap that I notice people fall into is that they're always making bad choices. They're always eating crappy food. And that crappy food puts you in this fog, and it puts you in this like low state of energy. And people just begin to think that that's normal. Like it's just normal to be at low energy, in a low energy and just feel like crap all the time. And that becomes like normalized in their own internal body. So once they begin to change their habits, once they begin to make better choices, that's one of the things that my clients are always start to realize is I just have way more energy. I just feel way better. Like, and a lot of people aren't even aware that they have that energy within them because they've been stuck in that cycle for so long that they're just like in this really low state of energy, right?
Totally. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Like I have a lot of clients where like with moms, especially like they're under eating a lot of the time where they actually get used to doing it because like they wake up in the morning, they want to like show up for their kids, get their breakfast ready, make sure their partner's ready to go, make sure like everything's good to go for the day, or like vice versa. Like if it's the dad doing the same thing, like overextending themselves. And then they get to like noon or even 1, 2, even 4 o'clock sometimes and realize, oh, like I haven't had any food. And they're so busy with all these other responsibilities that they got going on. They'll have like a little something out of convenience, maybe go run over to Tim Hortons, go pick up a muffin, which is basically a cupcake. And then they're wondering why they have like no motivation to want to go and do anything. They're like, why am I so drained and so low energy? And I have like no mental clarity. And they're like on edge and they just feel like shit all the time. And then because they're low energy, then they're directly like low mood as well too. So they start getting into a bad thinking process as well too. Because I find that when you're low energy, you're low motivation, you're not showing up for yourself, you're showing up for everybody else. You start to get a flawed perception of like what your life is supposed to look like, especially like with parents before versus where they are now, like before having kids versus having kids now. Their life was totally different. Their body was completely different. The way that they felt was different. I think this is just how their life is because they had kids. When in reality, like you need to be able to utilize your kids and your partner as your reason, not your excuse, and be able
Yeah.
to show up for them and be able to show them that setting those boundaries, showing up for yourself and prioritizing your health is going to create such a ripple effect in all the other areas of your life. Like I've had so many moms come to me where like they're depressed, they like have like no self-confidence, they don't even want to like get photos taken of themselves, they hate putting on clothes in their wardrobe because it feels tight and loose in all the wrong places because they never show up for themselves. Whereas when the clients start to show up for themselves, just how much better that they show up for their kids, how they're able to like go out for bike rides, be able to go out on hikes, be able to go like they actually go get photo shoots done with their family instead of just like always being like, hey, like can we take pictures at a different time, or just like can I be out of the photo because they don't feel confident enough. And I've also had some parents where like their kids initially didn't even want to be around them because like the energy that they gave off was like so bad. They were just like so drained and negative and complaining and just didn't honestly just weren't happy with their lives. And then as soon as they started to show up for themselves and prioritize themselves, it automatically just it was infectious almost where like their kids would be excited for them to get home, like they had a better sex life with their partner, they were able to actually get a promotion at their job in like a short amount of time or even get like a pay raise because it was noticeable from their coworkers or from their boss. I even had like a client that was like super drained, they hated their job, to getting a leadership position within even like 5 months time. And then they also had a bunch of coworkers be sad when they didn't show up to work. Like if they were like sick one day, they're like, man, I noticed a difference because you weren't here. Like I actually like liked my day less because you weren't around and you didn't have that awesome, infectious, positive energy about you. Because we don't realize like how bad it gets until it gets to the point where like it's actually affecting people in a negative way. Because
Exactly.
like either the energies that you have, like if it's positive, like you know that person that comes into the room and they had a shitty day just by like just like the energy, the way that they're holding themselves, versus the
Yeah.
person that's like high five and everybody that's like loving their life, they're having a really good time, and like you can just like it almost makes you happy just to like
Yeah.
see that person and seeing that ripple effect that it creates. Like I even had a client where their husband wasn't the healthiest, like he was like not really for the health and fitness route, and she started doing it herself, and that started to influence him and infect him into wanting to follow the same kind of lifestyle. He lost more weight than she did in 4 months, and he was happier, he was feeling better, they were going out more on the weekends, and they were spending more time with the kids. It's just insane how influential of a meta habit that getting your health together is, and just how much it's going to affect the other aspects in your life in a really positive way.
And yeah, and I love that you mentioned that, man, because a lot of people that are in that low energy state and are feeling like crap, they're not even aware of how it's affecting those around them, right? Like one of the excuses that I get from, like I hear all the time is career and family comes first. But in
Yep.
reality,
Yep.
the thing is, like, look, man, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not taking care of your health, especially pilots, like pilots, it's really important that every year they keep their medical, because if they don't keep their medical, they could lose their job. Everything could go downhill. So when you tell me that career comes first before health, but health is the reason that you have that career in the first place. If you didn't have a good functioning body, you wouldn't be in that job in the first place. And if
100%.
you're not taking care of yourself, if you lose your medical, what does that mean for your job? Well, that means you could lose your job. And what does that mean for your family? That means you're not going to be able to provide for your family. That's one aspect of it, right? So obviously your health should come first if you're talking about career. And then when it comes to your family, what kind of example are you setting for your kids? Like your kids are sponges. Your kids absorb everything that they see you do. You know, like you're essentially like a mirror for them, and they're gonna follow what you do. So if you're always having bad habits, if you're always in a crappy mood, if you're always low energy, how are you setting them up for their future? You know, you're setting them up for failure essentially. If you really care about your family, you got to put yourself first, because when you put yourself first and you raise your energy and you feel your best and you feel your most optimal self, that's when you're really going to be able to show up 100% for your family. That's when you're going to be able to show up 100% for your career. And I just don't get it when people are like, no, little family time, career.
Yep.
You're not going to get that without health. Like health is always the first thing that should be in your mind. Like health is really all we have, man. Right? Like people want to stay in their comfort zone, but your comfort zone is an illusion. Your comfort zone is just temporary comfort that's essentially setting you up for the most uncomfortable outcome, which is getting diagnosed with something, your doctor, losing your medical, like your doctor saying that you have this or that. That's the most uncomfortable outcome. But if you can step out of that comfort zone for a little bit into a little discomfort of watching your nutrition, of getting in the gym, which can be a little uncomfortable temporarily, then you're setting yourself up for the most comfortable life, which is being full of energy, having a
100%.
strong body, being
Yeah.
confident. Like you said, like having a good sex life, setting your
For
kids
real,
up for
man.
the
Totally. Like
bright
countless clients have told me, it's like, hey, like here's all these wins of like, oh yeah, I lost some weight, like I'm feeling good. Hey man, the sex life with my partner, god
Yeah.
damn, like they're just like, it's way better. And like just how much more their partner likes being around them as well too, and just like how less snippy they are, the
Yeah.
more patience that they have to be able to deal
Mhm.
with stressful situations. Because I mean, like, we're not taking care of ourselves. Like I have a bunch of clients that are under eating all the time. They're like, oh, I'm so stressed out. I have all this shit going on. I'm super overwhelmed. So they stop eating. They stop working out. They stop taking care of themselves. It's like, you know that under eating and not taking care of yourself is directly associated with having higher stress levels and having more anxiety, or even having like depression. Personally, I struggle with like tension headaches and like anxiety attacks, and like was depressed all the time. Like I was even like suicidal for a little while because I wasn't taking care of myself. And I like, the thing is I was able to have the benefit of being able to see both sides. Where I used to be a super active kid, used to break dance, used to play soccer, used to like be a super active kid all the time. And yeah, Juan's also like basically a professional break dancer. But out of high school, I ended up getting kicked out of my parents' house, and I was trying to become an adult super quick. I moved in with my girlfriend after like 3 weeks of dating her, and I was trying to just like be able to pay bills. Yeah, it was horrible because I got kicked out of my mom's house and she didn't want me there. So I was like, I gotta go somewhere. So I went into her house.
Okay.
That that was automatically creating like a bunch of toxicity, but also the toxicity was also created from me just working 6, 7 days a week. I was
Yeah.
smoking weed all the time. I was drinking on the weekends with my friends, and I was just like eating pizza or just like eating like shit all the time, or I was just not eating at all and playing video games all the time. Like nothing about that lifestyle was healthy. And like I slowly just got more and more into a depression and more low energy and more shitty, and just like at like in the middle of the day I would just be exhausted and drained and just didn't want to do anything, and everything would piss me off. Like I was just angry all the time, or I was like really down on myself and really self-critical because I was low energy and low motivation because I
Right.
wasn't taking care of myself whatsoever. And then as soon as I started actually diving into that and started taking care of myself again, I literally went from being like on thin ice and almost getting fired at my job to getting a promotion within like a few months, and like feeling more confident, feeling better, I was getting more dates with girls. Like there was just like so many different things that got created, and it just created a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And that's why I really encourage a lot of people to do is like making sure you're setting boundaries and you're prioritizing your health. Because like especially setting boundaries is like, because it's very common for a lot of people to overextend themselves and try and take on way too much. Being able to prioritize yourself and set that boundary and be like, hey, this is a non-negotiable, this is like really important for me. Honestly, boundaries are probably the best form of self-love, and
Yeah.
making sure that you're showing up for yourself. Like I don't know how many like parents or like moms that I worked with where the whole reason that they're not creating any consistency around a specific area is because they're letting people get in their way, and like they're
They're
not
letting that.
having those uncomfortable conversations of like why they're trying to do it, what the intention is behind it, and being clear on it as well. Like I find a lot of the time they'll like tiptoe over it, like they're kind of like beating around the bush, like they're not very firm on the boundary, like they
Yeah.
kind of bring it up a little bit, but it's like no,
Mhm.
like you gotta be firm on that. And I would even
Mhm.
like include your partner and like your kids in the experience as well too. It's like, hey, this is what my schedule looks like, let's schedule some time for us to go on a date night, like this is when we're going to take the kids to the park and like go on this vacation here, but like this is when I need to make sure I'm meal prepping, this is when I need to make sure I'm exercising on a regular basis so I can be optimally at like the energy that I need to be at to be able to show up strong for everybody else. Because if I don't do that, then it's going to affect you guys in a negative way, and that's going to affect your guys' habits and your upbringing, or like it's going to create like unnecessary tension in the relationship with their partner because they're not taking care of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I think boundaries and standards, that's key. And that's one thing that a lot of people struggle with because they're letting their environment control how they feel, how they're behaving, like what's going on in their life. I just got off with a call with a client, and he told me that he spent last week, he was in a hotel, and his calories were super high, and he was eating pizza and hot dogs and burgers, and he's just like, yeah, I just wasn't watching my macros. And it's like, and I told him like, bro, we got to have like our own standards, man, because if you're not setting standards, and even if you set standards and you say I'm gonna do this, but you let the environment control that, is that really your standard? That's not your standard anymore. That's the environment standard. And if you're letting your environment control your life, the environment is going to essentially, like the environment doesn't care about your health. Like you have to take that into consideration. Like you have to care about your health first. You have to set those boundaries. You have to tell that friend, hey man, I'm not drinking. So I'm just going to not drink today. And if that's really your friend, they're going to accept that, right? If they're not really your friend, then, you need new friends. And you have
Totally.
to,
I
you
couldn't
know,
agree more. It's one of those things where like they're just like, oh, like I don't want to like get in the way of their life or their routines and what they're doing, like what they want to be doing. When in reality, like if they support you, they love you, and like they understand why you're doing it, because you got to be clear on why you're doing it as well too. Because like a lot of
yeah,
people, like if you're just like, hey, I'm doing this thing without actually explaining why you're even doing it in the first place, that's not going to allow them to be like bought into like what your mission is and what your intention is with the actual action. Because like it's kind of
yeah,
like the same thing as us. Like if we go to work out and we're like, hey, I'm just gonna go work out to get jacked, and like there's not really like any kind of why behind it. Being clear on what that mission is, what that visualizing what that is for yourself is going to create a lot more impact. You're going to be a lot more motivated consistently, because again, motivation isn't something that's there, it's something that's created. So being able to create that motivation on your own and getting clear on what that is, like that's why we have a lot of our clients visualize and write down their goals as if they've already achieved it, and like visualizing it, writing it down, making it a part of their morning routine, because then they're more directed, they're more laser focused on it. And you have to have something that's powerful. Like you can't just have a why where it's like, oh, I want to be healthy, I want to get in shape, and it's just like, sure, like those are great things, but like doesn't really have any meaning behind it. Like even just me saying it doesn't sound that powerful. Whereas
mhm,
for me, like my initial why was I wanted to fucking love myself. I wanted to be able to not be depressed. I wanted to be happy on a day-to-day basis and not feel like I was holding myself back from my true potential and what I was capable for myself. I also had a mom that called me a loser and a failure, and I wasn't going to amount to anything. So being able to prove her wrong, because I mean, like I'm a little bit petty and like spiteful, and like in a constructive way,
yeah.
but being
You
able to
put
use that as
like positive things.
exactly. And like I also had a lot of people in high school, like I was bullied, like pretty much like I had nobody that believed in me growing up. So being able to believe in myself and being able to have the confidence in myself, and also just be able to improve my mental health, because I struggle with depression, just honestly hating myself for years, and being able to love myself, feel energized, feel good and happy and positive on a day-to-day basis. That was my why. That is why I showed up every single day. And also revisiting your why as well too, because like your journey is going to change. Like each checkpoint, each different month, like the reason why you're doing it is going to be completely different. Because right now versus when it was before, like obviously I want to continue with my mental health, but I'm in a much better
Yeah.
place now. So being
Yeah.
able to show other people what they're capable of and leading by example, and being able to be a leader for my community and show them like what they're capable of, and show and not let anybody settle around me. And I believe in a world where if you grew up in a small town, you don't need to live small. And I want to show people like all the fucking limits that I'm going to break past, so it influences them to want to do better for themselves. And that's one of the main reasons that I show up every single day.
Hell yeah, dude. I love that. And I'm curious, dude, like, so I've never struggled with depression, but I'm curious, like, once you got healthy, did that go away? Or do you still feel like there's like bouts of depression within your
Oh,
life?
dude, like it's fucking gone. Like it's just like it's one of those things where like I obviously like I get sad sometimes. Sometimes I get a little bit hard on myself. Like I mean, like the average person does. But like I'm
Yeah.
not like depressed, and like I don't want to like kill myself every other day. And like I don't like wake up out of bed, and I'm like fuck this. I don't want to get up and like throw the blankets over my head. I actually, because like also depression drains you at the same time. Like you're
Yeah.
super low energy. Like you don't want to do anything. You have no motivation. I have the most fucking energy out of anybody that I know, and I think Juan can fucking attest to that. Like I have an insane amount of energy. Like even my girlfriend is just like, dude, I don't know how you have energy. It's like 10 p.m. and I'm like still fucking hyped and like talking about the mission and the stuff that we're trying to do for our clients and stuff like that. Because like I've gotten clear on my mission.
Yeah.
Like I visualize that on a regular basis, and I continue to prove myself again and again. It's kind of like Alex Hermosi says. You need to just create like a bunch of undeniable proof and evidence that you are capable of what you're saying that you're going to go and do. And that's what I highly encourage everybody to do. It's like if you're not prioritizing your health, like you have no control or confidence in like at least one area of your life, you need to make sure that you're starting to build confidence. Like health is probably one of the first ones that you need to do, because under eating, not taking care of
Yeah.
yourself, having like unhealthy habits, they're all directly associated with
Yeah.
depression.
Like
Like
that's gonna bleed into every other area of your life. Yeah, like the person you become, not just physically, but also mentally. Because a strong body requires a strong mind. For you to have a physique that you're proud of and be like in a good body, like you have to create those habits mentally. And like your way of thinking has to change. And you have to, and so that's almost why like when you see somebody with an impressive physique, you're impressed because you can tell that person's disciplined. That person put into the work. Like that
oh hell yeah.
person does not fuck around,
It's like I
right?
want to
And
do
like
business with that person. I want to like have a relationship with that person.
exactly like that energy, like you want to get to know that person. Like that's the thing that people don't realize is like the way that you feel, the way that you see yourself, almost in a way, like that's how people see you too and feel you. Like if you're low energy, if you're always like feeling like shit, like people feel that off you and they don't want to be around that. They don't want to be around that people like feel like shit. The depression thing is another thing I wanted to touch on. I believe that I'm sure there's people with like chemical imbalances where it produces like depression, but I also feel like there's a lot of self-made depression.
It's
And I don't know
self-induced
how it is in,
depression.
yeah, self-induced depression. And I don't know how it is in Canada, man, but it's kind of sad here because here it's like, here, take this pill to hide it,
Oh, dude,
to mask
same,
it.
same.
Here, take
Yeah.
this pill, take a pill. And then people start taking these pills and then they realize it doesn't really fix the problem because one day if you miss your pill, that shit comes back
Well,
instantly,
dude,
right?
also like there's studies about depression pills where like basically it doesn't improve your serotonin, it doesn't improve what's going on. Basically, it just takes the serotonin and just makes it more efficient. So like you feel a little bit better, like like you're able to kind of like show up and like go through the motions, like you don't want to like off yourself, and like you feel a tiny bit better. But like
Mm-hmm.
actually being able to create effective change where you feel better, you're happier, you're energized on a day-to-day basis, it does none of that. Like it doesn't help you at all with that.
They had a pill that made you feel like you feel after a really good workout and after like a really good session. Everybody would take that pill.
For
But
real.
the thing is, nobody wants to put in that work. Everybody wants to, again, stay in your comfort zone. But it's like, it's not your comfort zone, man. It's an illusion. It's keeping you trapped.
Also,
Keeping you down.
like one thing just before like it's off my head is like I really think a lot of people need to be careful about how they talk to themselves as well too. Like
Yes.
it's
Mhm.
because the thing is like kind of how you talked about like the energy that you're giving off, but also how you treat yourself at the same
Yes.
time directly is how you treat a lot of other people as well at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
Because I found when I was like really down on myself, I like hated myself. I was just pissed off all the time, and I would always just like we make ourselves out to be like the worst possible and like we're our own worst enemies in a lot
Right.
of cases, and that was me where I would actually have customers at my old 9 to 5 job I would just get like angry at and just like pissed off at, and I would just like
Uh-huh.
I'd be like this kind of like petty asshole and like this smart ass when I didn't need to be, and I'd just be really down and like negative and complain all the time because like I was negative and I'd complain about my life all the time and like how much I hated myself. So I just hated everybody else. Like I was just like like this world is out to get me. I treat other people like shit. I push people away from me. I
You
had my
probably
own like
attracted that by thinking that, like, you would attract those experiences.
exactly. Like I actually have a friend of mine right now who I'm not going to name names because he might watch this. Is like he thinks the world is out to get him as well too. And like I constantly see like there's so many opportunities for him to be more positive, to be able to deal with his situations in a more positive, constructive way if he was to look at it from a different perspective. But he also just like he just thinks, oh, like I'm not as privileged as other people. This is just how my life is. This is just how it's going to be. Instead of taking control of it and being like, how is this going to make me stronger? How is this going to allow me to move forward in the right direction? And how can I show up do a little bit better every single day, or look at this from a better way that's going to allow me to have more growth in my life instead of like, oh, the world is out to get me. I hate my life, blah, blah, blah. And then you're just super negative. And then you start to look for different signs and
Yeah.
different things of why life is out to get you, trying to
Yeah.
like find proof about it almost, where it's like, oh, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, where it's like, what are the good things that happen? Like how
Exactly, like
far
that same thing. Like, you can apply it to the positive. Like, that's what me and what I do with all my clients. Always share wins. Like, focus on the positive. Focus on what is
wins
going on.
always,
Because,
no matter how
yeah,
small.
exactly, because that opens up your mind to see where the other wins are, where you can win more, like where you can, benefit more. Because what you say to yourself and the like what you're saying in your mind, like, that will create your own reality, right? Like, I
For
always say,
real.
like, laziness, like, that's a good example. Like, that's a skill, man. That's not a trait that you're born with. That's
It's a
something that if
skill.
you it is. It's a skill because if you do it repeatedly over and over and over, like that, it's a really easy skill to develop, obviously, because all you have to do is nothing. But
I
if
like the
you're
way that you're phrasing that because skills are like most of the time they're associated with a good thing, but like we also develop skills in a
that is
bad way as well too.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And if you're always doing lazy activities and you're saying in your mind, a lot of people say, I'm lazy, I'm just a lazy person. If you're saying that and you're constantly validating it by sitting on the couch watching TV all day, well, then yeah, you're going to become a lazy person. But if you're saying in your mind, I'm a healthy individual, I work out, I'm always in the gym, you could start doing that without necessarily being that person. But just because you're saying it in your mind, and just because it's almost like fake it till you make it, right? If you start to shift the way that you're thinking, and then finally you do step in the gym and you start creating those habits, and then that starts to create your reality, because your mind does create your reality. So
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
mm,
I couldn't agree more. It's like kind of like there's delayers versus deciders. Like it's the people that are always delaying things. Like it's like creating like that pattern of like continuing to like put things off, always finding a reason on why not to do things. And like it's kind of like as somebody who trains pilots, the analogy that we tell our clients is that when pilots learn how to fly a plane, the person directing them specifically says don't focus on the obstacle, because everybody statistically that focuses on the obstacle hits the obstacle. Whereas everybody that focused on the path where they needed to go
yeah,
statistically didn't hit the obstacle. Because if you're always focused on like excuses, why you can't do it, how low energy you are, all this, like how there's this vacation coming up, or you're sick, you're gonna wait until you're back 100%, or like whatever it is, of because it's always gonna be another thing that's always
there's
coming up.
always
Versus like a decider, it's like they have all the reasons in the world to delay too, but they overcome that fear and they decide to be a decider for themselves
yep.
because they know it's never going to be a perfect time. And being able to
Oh,
show up in the face of adversity when things aren't going your way is the
mm,
most valuable skill that you can create to be able to create true sustainability around any kind of thing that you're trying to follow through with. It doesn't even need to just be your health, but it could be you trying to build that, like that dream business, or like you trying to be able to hit those next level goals in other aspects in your life. Maybe it's like having a relationship with your partner. You're not just going to stop working on that relationship with that partner when shit gets tough. You're going to work through it and figure out what you guys need to do differently to be able to grow and figure that problem out. You're not going to be like, "Oh, I'm just going to break up with you and I'm just going to quit."
Right.
Like that sounds ridiculous. Or like if you're like building your dream and you try for a month and like nothing happens, like you're not just going to quit. You're going to be like, "What can I do differently? How can I improve a little bit more every single day?"
Right.
Or like if like you're having like a really off month, making sure you have the mentality of like your best months come after your worst months, your best days come after your worst days, and then just continuing to just show up and put that active service in every single day, not expecting immediate results, but knowing not if but when it's going to pay off. That's actually one of my affirmations in my cold showers every single day.
Yeah,
is like
I love that thing.
yeah, and my like one of my affirmations also is I admire my determination to show up no matter what the fuck is happening in my life. Because regardless of what's getting thrown at me, no matter how hard I'm being on myself, or like what happened with a client or like a potential client or like whatever it is, I'm still gonna show up. I'm still gonna make it happen. Like even if I got injured, I would find a way to get active and make sure that I was still prioritizing my health and showing up every single day. And if you have that determination, you shift it from like, oh, how can't I do this? Or like all these reasons that are happening.
Exactly.
To like, how can I even do a little bit and just break it into smaller, finer, less overwhelming steps so I'm at least still showing up.
Right. Yeah, and exactly, because most people would give up. Most people would say, "Oh, I can't move because, my foot was injured." I actually had a client who her foot got injured and she was still getting like her upper body workouts in. She was still like moving around because she understands that shouldn't stop you. Like nothing should stop you if you really are determined to get an end result, like, and you don't give up, like then you don't fail, right? Most people see like obstacles or things that, challenges as a failure because they're like, well, I don't know how to solve it, right? That's what happens a lot with New Year's, right? People are like, new year, new me. I'm finally going to get in shape. I'm going to do it. This is the year. And then February comes around and people have given up, right? And what I always say about this is that a lot of people sometimes there's a couple things. So first, they might not be patient enough. Sometimes people need the patience to wait, a little bit of like long-term gratification instead of like expecting it right away. And then the second thing is when you don't have guidance, that's where we come in. Obviously, when you don't have a coach, it could be a matter of, okay, maybe you're doing your workouts right, maybe you're getting your steps in, maybe you're moving a lot, but maybe nutrition needs a couple tweaks. The way I always describe it to people, it's like, think of a garden hose. If we think of a garden hose, we turn it on, water flows through the hose, right? What happens if there's a kink in the hose? Well, some water might still flow, but you're not going to get the full effect of that hose, right? And a lot of the time people turn on that hose, but there's a bunch of kinks in the hose and they don't have anybody to even show them that. So when you're not even aware of the kinks in your hose and you're expecting the hose to be fully on, for the water to be fully flowing, then obviously you're going to give up. You're going to be discouraged when you don't necessarily see the end result, or the results of the efforts that you're putting in. But if you have a coach can be like, hey man, you're doing all this right. Like keep this like it is, but let's get rid of a couple of these kinks, because once we get rid of these kinks, then the progress can fully flow. And people just, again, sometimes people need that guidance. People need that guidance to see the kinks in the hose because we don't see the kinks in the hose, right?
100%. It's creating that awareness and like having, because like the thing is, like if you're just going through the motions, you're going through the routines, and you're just trying to like pure determination, willpower your way through it, and like you don't have things down, you're not optimizing your energy levels, you don't know how to create motivation on your own because you've never done it before, and you're trying to just show up every single day.
Pop up out of nowhere. Mm-hmm.
Well, you're like overextending for a bunch of stuff, and then you have like this 100 or nothing mentality where you're like, I'm just going to do everything or I'm going to do nothing. And then that creates absolutely no sustainability, no consistency. And I find that's actually probably one of the biggest pitfalls most people run into when it comes to creating any kind of sustainability around their health and fitness, is they're like, oh, if I can't do a full hour workout, I'm just going to put it off until tomorrow, like when I have enough time. And then like another thing comes up. They're not like adjusting things or like making things a little bit more flexible to allow themselves to show up. It's like, what if you just did a 20-minute workout? Like 20 minutes is 1% of your day. We brush our teeth every single day for like 3 to 5 minutes. It's not a significant amount of time, but you do it on a consistent basis and as a part of your daily routine because it's necessary and it's something that's a non-negotiable, that's important for you and your longevity. Like the same thing with your teeth. Like you don't want to have like your teeth falling out and like feel like just like not be able to chew things and having like all these cavities and stuff. It's the same thing with your health, where like if you're not moving and you're just sedentary all the time, you're gonna have all these injuries, these hip problems, you're gonna have all these aches and pains, you're gonna be low energy, and if you're not taking care of your health.
Yeah, and if you're always saying, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it later, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it later, that becomes the habit. The habit no longer becomes, I go to the gym. The habit becomes, I say I'm going to go to the gym, but then I don't do it. And the more that you do that over and over and over, you're programming yourself to do that repeatedly. So like you have to be really careful when you say that you're going to do something, because if you let yourself down, you're essentially lying to yourself, right? Like if you said, if you called a friend and you told them, hey, can you pick me up from the airport? And they're like, yeah, for sure. And they never show up. You're like, okay, well, maybe something came up, something, maybe something happened. Let's say you do it again. Maybe you call them a second time and they still don't show up. Then you're like, okay, well, I don't know how reliable this friend might be. Yeah. Let's say it happens the third time. By the third time, you're going to be like, okay, I'm just not going to call this friend because this person is not reliable. The same thing is happening with yourself in your mind. If you continue to let yourself down and you continue to become that unreliable person, that's your identity. That's what your identity is going to become. And when you identify yourself with being an unreliable person, you're not going to get shit done because that's who you are internally.
100%. Like it's like you need to be very careful about like the way that you're talking to yourself and like committing and like deciding to like actually follow through with it. Because if like you're just kind of like you're kind of half-assing it, you're not like you're kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and like you're just like, oh, I'm gonna try my best to get my workouts in this week, or I hope I'm gonna get my workouts in this week, instead of
like those words.
I am gonna do this, and I'm gonna be an active person going forward, and this is something that is important to me. That's a non-negotiable. Like look at the difference between the two of them. It's like, oh, I'm gonna try. I hope I'm gonna do this, versus like I'm gonna fucking do this, and I'm gonna show up, and I'm gonna make this happen.
And people have trouble with that sometimes because maybe they don't even believe it. But even if you don't believe it, like just start doing it. Like just start saying it anyway. Because if after you do it enough times, then you're going to start to believe it. You're going to start to believe it because you're actually following through and you're actually doing what you're saying you're going to do. But if you continue to say you're going to do something and you don't do it, again, like that's becoming who you are. You're becoming that person who says they're going to do something and they don't do it. You don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that person for your job. You don't want to be that person for your family. And your family will also pick up on that. Because if your wife sees that you said, hey, I'm going to work out on Tuesday and it's Thursday and you still haven't hit that workout, she might not say it, but she's thinking this unreliable piece of shit, like she's probably thinking
like it's something that like they don't like even pay attention to, but like it's just something that it's just like, oh, like I don't even like I shouldn't even like put any kind of responsibility or rely on this person whatsoever. Like
they're just settling. They're just used to that person always letting them down one day, right?
And people need to have that awareness going into it, where it's like, I'm not going to believe in myself initially. Like that's like people need to know that that's normal as well too. Like having that proper expectation going into it, being like, I'm not going to be perfect. I don't like maybe leading up until this point, I haven't followed through with it, but going forward, I'm going to show myself and create undeniable proof that I'm going to fucking crush this. I'm going to show up for myself, and don't try and take on too much. Try not to like overwhelm yourself. Try not to like create way too much variety and try and have that shiny object syndrome. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Like I have so many clients where they're trying to follow their nutrition. Like I'm going to try this healthy recipe. I'm going to do this. I'm going to try and cook all my meals every single day because I want it to be fresh and I want it to be perfect and I want it to taste great and I want to do everything great every single week. And then they start to get overwhelmed because they're still working a shit ton. They're still showing up for their partner. They're still showing up for their kids. They're trying to do this all at the same time and be able to work out and eat all their macros and trying to like hit all these things all at once. And then they get overwhelmed. And typically what happens when you get overwhelmed, you shut down and you don't want to do anything. Whereas if you just focus on, I'm going to hit 100 grams of protein, I'm going to hit my calories, and I'm just going to have like the same boring shit throughout the week, because boring builds bodies, having the same boring repetitive stuff. So it's
Yeah.
easier to follow. It doesn't take up a whole lot of my time, so I can put my focus in and my energy where it needs to be and have more bandwidth to be able to deal with it on a day-to-day basis. And same with like workouts. It's like if I can't do like an hour workout, I'm going to do 20 minutes. Or notice how like your evening workouts haven't really been working out because you're so drained at the end of the day. Like instead of being like, oh, I'm not a morning person, I can't follow through with it, try doing like a 10 or 20-minute workout in the morning when nobody else is awake. It's not going to get in the way of anybody else's time. And then you get it out of the way, and you already started your day off with a win, and you're already focused on your health starting off the day, which then also allows you to be more laser focused and more directed through the rest of the day and be more focused on your health, and just making small adjustments like that. And just continuing to test things and be like, I'm okay with this not working out, and being able to go into it with that mentality and that energy of like, I'm just curiosity. Like, I'm just going to see if this works with my wiring, because not everybody works the same. Everybody's path, everybody's journey is a little bit differently. And as long as you continue to test things out, you will find a system that works for you. It's when you stop trying and you get down on yourself and you allow that to affect how you move forward that shit doesn't work out.
Yeah, and that's how sustainability is created, right? By making small changes and small habits. Because some people think that they have to go from 0 to 100. They have to go from not working out at all to working out 7 days a week, not taking any break. And like, you might do that for a week
every day.
Yeah, you might do that for a week or two, but then it's going to fall. Like, that's not going to be sustainable. I think people don't realize that you could just make a couple small changes. You could just get more steps in. You could just watch your nutrition a little bit. You could just get 2 workouts a week, although I recommend at least 4. But you could start with 2 just to start building that habit, and then that starts to stack. Yeah, just do something, because people just throw their hands up in the air when whatever they're doing is not working, or whatever they're doing is that's not sustainable. It's just too much. And so obviously you're going to be discouraged if you overwhelm yourself, if you put, you give yourself one thing. A feedback that I get from my clients all the time is, it wasn't as hard as I expected. Like getting in shape wasn't, building these habits, it wasn't as hard as I expected. I think people psych themselves out thinking, oh man, this is going to be like super daunting. I'm going to have to go to the gym.
They also create that at the same time because they try and take on too much, making it feel more daunting than it needs to be.
Yeah, 100%. And then when they actually start making the small changes, start doing the habits, they realize, oh, this isn't as hard as I thought. This is just kind of like just doing small things every week.
Think about it this way. It's kind of like being intimidated from the gym initially. Like you're psyching yourself out. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm going to feel super self-conscious. Everybody's going to judge me, blah, blah, blah. You get there. Everybody has their headphones in. Everybody's there for a reason. Like nobody gives a shit about you even being there. And then like you start doing it and you're like, this is actually not that, I actually kind of like it here. And like, I don't know how many clients that I've had where they're like, fuck, I'm like shaking and I don't know how this is going to go. And they're like overthinking it, like going over these scenarios in their head, and it's just like they get there and like, oh, nobody's even looking at me or gives a shit of why I'm here.
Like that, who was like that, and then he started to realize, the gym isn't as intimidating. And then one time we were on the call and he told me, dude, I was at the gym and I saw this guy like working out, and I just went up to him and I was like, hey man, good job, man, keep it up. And he said that dude said, dude, nobody's ever like said anything like that to me. Thank you. Like that super motivated them. And it was just like, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment.
That's the way gym culture should be.
Yeah, exactly. So it is, so don't overwhelm yourself. Like just get in. And then it's the undeniable proof, right? If you prove to yourself that you can get 2 workouts a week, then maybe next week you can get 3. That's one thing that happened. You know what I've been doing lately? I've been doing the cold plunge. And it's
let's go.
But I started first time, it was rough, bro. It was like I couldn't put my whole body in. I was like shivering and shit. And then after a couple times, I would go like, okay, I'm gonna do 5 minutes. And then one time my timer didn't go off, and I was in there for 7 minutes. And I was like, oh, I was in there for 7 minutes. I guess I could probably do 10 minutes. And it was like I proved to myself that I could do 5, and then I accidentally proved to myself that I could do 7. So once I was at 7, I'm like, well, I can probably do 10. And now 10 is easy. 10 is like a walk in the park. It's just part of my routine now. Like I just do 10 minutes and I'm just like, yeah, this is just what I do. Like it's just because I proved to myself over and over that I can do this, I can do that. If I can do this, I can do that. If you lift a certain amount, next time in the gym, you're like, well, I lifted that amount last time. Let me try 5 more pounds. and then you just, again, you stack it up, stack it up, stack it up.
100%, and just do like a little bit better every single day. Like I never thought I was going to be shredded getting like ready for a bodybuilding competition. I never thought I was
When
going
is
to
your
run.
competition, by the way?
That's in October. It's late
In
October, so
October.
that's
Okay.
yeah. So we're getting pretty shredded for that. And like I never thought that I would
Same.
ever do a bodybuilding competition. I didn't
Oh,
even think I
really?
would have like muscle for the longest time. I was anorexic in high school. Like I was afraid of the gym. I didn't think I was going to do anything properly. Like I thought that I was just going to be stuck at some 9 to 5 job and just hate my life. I have created my dream job, my dream business. Like the relationship that I'm with my girlfriend right now is fucking awesome. I have like a professional like podcast studio set up, and I low key always kind of wanted to do something like that. And I finally got it all set up. I'm like crushing it at the gym. I have people coming up to me and like how I inspire them, how I'm influencing them to want to do better for themselves all the time. I never thought I was going to be that person, but he was
Yeah.
continuously just putting in that active service every single fucking day, not expecting immediate results because like everybody wants instant gratification. And that's what I really love about the gym is it teaches you long-term gratification and not expecting to just see results right away and just putting in the fucking work and trusting the process. Because if you can apply that to other areas of your life with your business, with your relationships, and just know that if you were to continue putting in that work, it's going to pay off. Because I'm sure if God came and told you, hey, if you put in this amount of effort, you get this amount of no's, you get this amount of rejection or this amount of failures, and then
Yeah.
you're going to like be successful, you would be so fucking excited to fail. You'd be so excited to go through all those hurdles. You'd be one step closer to getting to that point that you want to get to. And that's
Yeah.
exactly how I have approached every aspect in my life, and everything has come to fruition.
Yeah, and you have to be very mindful that that could go either way, right? Because you could either snowball in the positive, stacking up wins, stacking up wins. People that are really overweight, they didn't get really overweight overnight. You know, like that was, they were stacking negative habits, negative things until they got to that point, right? And so and that's why it's the hardest part for people to start to reverse that, because they've been stuck in that for so long, for years sometimes, that they have to kind of start to reprogram, start making small changes. But then once you get to a point to where you start to realize, oh, I look better, people complimenting you, just feel better, and then start stacking up in the other direction. And that's what we want.
100%.
That's what we're here for. We're here to change lives.
We're here to make that identity shift and be able to. Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I truly am so fucking passionate about this because I've seen people go from being full blown fucking alcoholics to maybe drinking every once in a while, and they like love their life, and they're like, I don't even know if I want to drink. They're like, there's this thing this weekend where I have to go drink. I don't even know if I want to. 4 months prior, they're like, man, I drink every day or like every other day. I'm drinking every weekend, and I'm like having all these drinks, and then they go and like I just see like how shredded they are. Like I went to like a music festival with a client. Or like I saw a client there and they came up to me and they just looked so shredded. They were dancing the whole night. Whereas like I've seen them at that same music festival before, just completely just zonked out. They were just like super low energy and like you kind of saw them here and there, but they were like sitting by the fire the whole time and like how much more vibrant that they were. I've had clients go from like hating their job at something that they hate to getting their dream job after 4 months. I had a client who was very set on being like, I'm going to be a dental hygienist the rest of my life. They're trying to be a dentist right now. They're at school and university and have paid for that, and they're actually becoming a dentist because they built confidence in this area and they feel better. They have more confidence. They have more energy, and they fucking believe in themselves. And that seeped into all the other areas of their life. And now they're going to be a fucking dentist instead of being like, oh, I'm going to be a dental hygienist and like this is as good as it's going to get. They prove to themselves that there's something fucking better out there for them.
Yep. And because they're creating that proof, again, they're in that upward spiral, dude.
Fuck
dude,
yeah,
I have
man.
a client call, but
I do also have a client call.
You also have a client call.
So I'll stop